in town and is willing to pour a lot of money. So perhaps you could just allay those.
I'm the caretaker of names as the Minister for Heritage or Culture, and I'm very passionate about history and the place of history. But somebody said, I think it was a Greek philosopher Archipelago, who said, forget the past, you lose both eyes. Dwell in the past, you lose an eye. I think it's better we just have an eye, in a way, dwell in the past somehow, than forget it completely. But at least you lose an eye. It means you have to, it is give and take. It's salt and sugar. You need both. But how much you take is the most important thing. We must preserve our history, yes. But that must not hold you back from progressing as a nation. And that is the debate we should be having. What do we keep? What do we change? Why and how and when? Those are the critical debates that we hope to raise, not only on this area, but generally on our country is urbanizing. For instance, Nairobi. Most of the old streets that you used to see in Nairobi are being, they're being overtaken by new buildings and so on. Yeah. And so on. How do we modernize, but at the same time conserve our heritage is the bigger debate. And I think we'll be very open to that as a ministry and see where we need to go as Kenya.
All right. Questions are coming in. Remember, you can send in your question. The number is 22422. That's 22422. We have Dr. Mutie, who's a lawyer from Lukenya, says, Honorable Dr. Hassan-Wario, why is the government spending a lot of money on the Kenya at 50 projects while our country is highly faced by economic hardship?
I think we're not spending a lot of money. You should remember that.
I mean, for him, 500 million.
That is a drop in the ocean. If you look at what Nigeria spent for their 50 years, I think it was 8 billion. Yeah? And I think our 500 million is going to do more than what they did with 8 billion in terms of visibility, in terms of what you'll experience. We spiced up. The programs are going to be different. But look at this. You're 50 years old. You've worked very hard. You took this country from a colonial, backdrop, which was just a little. Nairobi was the big town. The others were almost villages. Completely modernized it for the last 50 years. It is the big economy in this region. It is. You cannot mention Africa without mentioning Kenya. This is the country which gave America its president, and so on and so forth. It is time to stop and celebrate as a Kenyan. It's just time to drop everything and thank God for being Kenyan. And for this period, lots of arguments won't do. I think let's just look and say, how many countries fell by the wayside in the last 50 years? How many people now do not have a country to go back to within this African Union? So I think we are blessed, and Kenyans are very prayerful people. It is time to thank God. It is time also to thank ourselves for working so hard as Kenyans. Kenyans never give up. They're resilient. They're hardworking. And say, thank God. So what is 500 million to do all that for all of you Kenyans, 40 million, and all the people who are related to Kenyans? I think it is time to take stock and thank God.
Yeah. Talk about monuments. When former President Moi was celebrating 10 years of his 10 years of Nyayo, they went and put up a structure in the middle of City Park. Tell us what kind of monuments you anticipate, or whether you build one, or whether you'll build in the future, or what, to remind us about those 50 years.
I think let me just tell you about monuments, because that was my old job at the museum. I was the director of museum sites and monuments. And monuments are historical pieces. They are reference points. If Moi had not built that, probably the generations to come may not remember him, whether it was good or bad. And the Ethiopians are the best in Africa in terms of preserving monuments. They preserved monuments from the Italian era from Aksum, the old monuments, to the Italian era, to the Mengistu monuments. They have not been touched. The Haile Selassie monuments. And every time you ask them, they say, that's part of our history. That is part of our history. So it's a narrative in a 3D form of your historical pasts. And when Kenya marks 50 years, it is important to have a monument. Again, as that historical reminder. And Americans are very good. Every developed country, every civilized nation has historical markers in the name of monuments. We also had that traditionally, Vigango amongst the Griam, to mark graves, marking things, marking periods of celebration. So it is very important throughout culture. So what we're saying is we didn't have enough time to conceptualize the monument. We only had 3 months to come up with comprehensive programs and package and bring in partners and set up secretariat. Let's do the monuments because Kenya at 50. Kenya turns 50 on the 12th. The program starts then for a year. We will have a competition next year. That's our plan. We want young Kenyan architects and young Kenyan architecture students to come out with a design for Kenya at 50 monument. And then we will do a selection. The winning selection will end up doing a monument again at Uhuru Gardens because that seems to be our shrine as a nation. Yeah.
All right. There's another question here. Somebody says here, Honorable Wario, will there be any celebrations in the rest of Kenya, or it's only a Nairobi affair? How will the people in your rural village mark the day?
There'll be celebrations. Obviously, you know, we had budgetary constraints. 500 million cannot be rolled out in 47 counties. With all the, you know, the love in the world, you can't spread that. So each county, and we've communicated this to them, each county should have its activity as usual. And we've asked governors yesterday, for instance, I was talking to a governor from northern Kenya on things that we can do together. Can we help you with branding? Can we help you with various activities? That we can. So they can use platforms that we already have as a secretariat. But take it as any Jamhuri Day. You can roll out your programs at the local level. Obviously, Nairobi becomes the center not because we just want it to be the center. We have guests coming here. We have 12 presidents. It's the face of Kenya. So that is why most of it is concentrated here. If we had to roll out everything to the counties, it would be a lot of money. And we didn't, again, want to ask for, for money from the public coffers at this point.
Right. There's somebody who is, Evans from Lolongo says, why should a group of 10 patriotic Kenyans pay 3,500 for them to be allowed to enter Uhuru Gardens? Why these high charges? Are there charges?
3,500?
Yeah.
For what?
I don't know where he's getting his information from. Are there charges to go to
now
Uhuru Gardens?
For the 11th?
Yeah.
No, it's free. It's free to all Kenyans. It's very free. Come, all of you. It's free.
Then Ben Mwendwa from Kitui says, nothing to celebrate. It's 50 years of poverty, poor health, education. Why don't you spend the cash to buy x-ray machines?
I think he's reading the wrong materials and he's been getting wrong ideas. There's a lot to celebrate. Kenya cannot compare to many countries, even within the region. Be very honest. And I think I look at my glass as half full, not half empty. We could have our issues. But this is one of those few countries in Africa where you can still engage, have a discussion. Okay? We have so many good things happening in this country. So I think there is a lot to celebrate. We don't say that all the challenges have been overcome. They're there. Challenges of disease, challenges of poverty. It's like a road. It's always under construction. But that should not mean that you throw away the baby with the water, with bathing water. You have to sit and reflect and say, we came this far. And 50 years is not only 2 days. How many of us will see the next 50 years?
Well.
So it is historic. It is time just to sit and say, thank God, how many of us did not reach here? How many of our friends or how many of our relatives did not see these 50 years? So I think it's time to thank God, most importantly, for getting us this far.
Yeah. Well, there's this question that keeps on coming up, 500 million shillings to be used for the celebrations. And of course, you've been very clear that you will have legacy projects. But what do you think, 500 million shillings? Is there, merit in that kind of...
No, as he says, I don't think it's a lot of money. If you have a birthday,
yeah,
and maybe you don't have food, will you say you won't
celebrate the
birthday because you're poor? You try with what you can and do some remembrance that now you have reached whatever number or anniversary of wedding. People do that despite the problems. I mean, you won't say I won't celebrate because
I have this problem.
No. Unless of course we're in the hospital.
Yes. I think Mutegi is right. One of the biggest expenditure areas for many Kenyans is weddings nowadays.
Yeah. They have problems, but they still have weddings.
Look at our wedding shows. Yeah, we're throwing everything at weddings.
Yeah.
But you carry that bed with you from that hotel. You paid how much money?
Yeah.
Okay. But it is important because it marks a time.
Yeah.
Yeah? Just the way weddings and birth of children and your birthday marks a time. But what is more important than marking the time of the birth of your nation? The country that you carry the ID of, the country that gave you that passport, the country that gave you that identity. It's like your mother and your father. You know, you can't get rid of them. You can't just throw them away. So I think 500 million, but also, we are a very respected nation. All these people coming to us, if we did things on a budget, on a shoestring budget, and did a very shoddy show for them, what does that reflect about our ambition as a nation? Our collective ambition, and also our collective celebration of our history as a nation. I had a South African friend who told me when we were studying, there's a friend of his who was slightly, you know, he was doing his PhD for the last 15 years there. And I asked him, what is wrong with your friend? He said, the problem with my friend is he overanalyzes everything. Okay? So let us not overanalyze things. Some of these things we just drop everything you're doing as a Kenyan. Put on your best shirt or trouser.
Celebrate.
Celebrate.
Yeah. The other concern is about accountability, because we've had that problem. Money is out there, but we're never accountable in terms of how will it be used, how has it been used. Is there any platform?
Very clear. You can come to us anytime. We are following all the procurement rules. We are dealing with our procurement team very clearly. We have written to PPOA, the Public Procurement Oversight Committee. We are in control of this from the beginning to the end. And obviously for the legacy projects, if you sponsor something, we send you to the right ministry. So if it is like health projects or it's environment projects, you deal with the right ministry. For us as a secretariat, it was just to source these funds, and then we link you up with them. You agree on the way forward, and you work together.
Talking about accountability, today in Nation I saw a commentary, editorial, saying that some stadium in Kisumu, I don't know, somewhere else, a lot of money has been spent to renovate, but when you go there you see nothing. Is that, as minister?
That's an issue. That's an issue we're dealing with. That's an issue we have raised internally. Obviously some of these things are inherited. Yeah, we came in, we found these projects going on and so on and so forth. But it's an area we're very serious about, because we are just about to roll out a program of doing stadia throughout the country and so on and so forth. So we must start with where did we go wrong at the beginning, who did what wrong, and how can we tighten that as we go ahead. Because, for instance, stadia, the area of sport is critical. Yeah? Enhancing stadia and other facilities will lead to enhanced sports and participation by different people. But you can't enhance that in the environment of suspicion. So we're dealing with that critically, because I see that as pivotal to us moving forward in terms of establishing new facilities for Kenyans.
Right. People are still concerned about the 500 shillings.
It's not much.
Somebody says here, how do we celebrate Kenya at 50 while cutting jobs and reducing salaries? That's Ouko from Kisumu. And then another one says, 500 million shillings is salary for 50 million. Basically touching on the retrenchment that people are
Yes, I think it's not time to talk about retrenchment. My forte is to make sure that we have a celebration across the country. We are not saying there are no problems, there are no challenges. Put them all aside. Come out as a Kenyan, celebrate your nation. This nation has given you a lot, and you've given a lot back to this nation. It is your birthday as Kenyans. Happy birthday to all of you, despite your problems, despite the challenges. But this great country will overcome most of this.